Hi. So in this section, I'll give some examples of exactly solvable problem, like exactly solvable. Exactly solvable problems in one dimension. There are only a few exactly solvable problems on dimension Schrodinger equation. So when I mention one dimension, I always mention the space dimension because we'll again assume that B is only a function of X. So separation of variables is valid. So we are only looking for solution of this form. Each operator acting on psi will give some E times psi of X, and there can be many states. So what we are going to calculate, we are going to calculate the eigenvalues and the eigenfunctions for a given H. And in H, what will change? This is the only part that will change because of the uh, space derivative part will remain the same. This is the so basically that is the problem. So exactly solvable problem, and the most important one is yeah, infinite square wave potential. And I will show you some applications of this infinite square wave potential. So basically every one of you knows that in the infinite square wave potential, the wave function starts from x equal to uh, domain is x equal to 0 to x equal to l, because v of x is 0 inside and infinity outside, and you can put a equality here. So this is how it is represented, delta function kind of thing, and so this region is not accessible. So we need boundary conditions. So the boundary condition is psi at x equal to 0 is 0, psi at x equal to L is 0, and so the Schrodinger equation just becomes d2 x square psi equal to E psi, only solving in this region because b equal to 0. And again the solutions are of this form. So this is nothing but psi double prime equal to 2me psi double prime plus 2me by h bar square psi equal to 0, which can be written as psi double prime plus some k square psi equal to 0, where k equal to square root 2me by h bar. And the solution of these equations, there are two solutions, which is psi 1 wave function could be sine of kappa x, and there are two eigenfunctions. These are two eigenfunctions. One is sine of kx, one is cos of kx. So the general wave function psi will be some a sine of kx, b cos of kx. But at x equal to 0, psi equal to 0, so this gives b equal to 0, and so we are left with x equal to a, psi equal to 0, which gives sine of kl, and this can be satisfied. So if we want a solution where psi is not identically 0, so non-trivial solution, then k or l equal to n pi gives the values of k, which is n pi by l. And what are the values of l? Values of n. The values of n can be, so let me write down all the values: -3, -2. So from negative integers 0 to positive integers. Now, are all these values possible? Is this value possible? Not, because we want a, because if n equal to 0, k equal to 0, psi of k equal to 0. So basically our wave function psi of a is psi is sine of KL, K is n pi, so n pi x by L. So this is sine of n, and these are the eigenfunctions with the eigenvalue of this equation. Kappa is given, K is given by n pi by L, or basically E is h bar square k square by 2m. So En will be, so I can call it Kn. En will be h bar square n square pi square by 2m L square. And whether this value is possible, no, because we are looking for non-trivial solution. Psi equal to 0 is a solution, but that's not interesting. I mean, there's nothing psi equal to 0. And is -1 is a solution? Okay, -1 is a solution, but if I put -1, sine of minus theta is minus sine theta. And since I already told that a factor of e to the power I alpha doesn't matter, so basically the -1 and +1 are giving the same solution. So I can cancel all the minuses. So actually n is 1, 2, 3, infinity. So n are positive integers. So this is the solution, and so this is the infinite square well. And before describing the before going to the applications of this infinite square well, let me tell you that another very important one that I started in the last session is the periodic boundary condition. And the periodic boundary condition is, again, the potential is 0, but domain is x equal to 0 to x equal to L. Okay, do anyone have any question? Okay, so in the periodic boundary condition, you have again the same equation, psi prime plus k square psi equal to 0, and we generally take two eigenvalues, which is e to the power plus I kx plus b e to the power minus I kx. And why do we care about these two eigenvalues? Because basically you can write e to the power I kx also in terms of sin kx cos kx. So basically these are the these are the eigenfunctions. I can write many bases of the eigenfunctions, and combinations can be another basis. So first of all, the boundary condition is psi of x plus L is equal to psi of x. This is the boundary condition. So there are many things I want to tell you. The first thing is notice that this combination sine of kx cos of kx can be eigenfunctions, or this combination e to the power I kx e to the power minus I kx can be eigenfunctions. And all not yet eigenfunctions, but the solutions of these equations. Not yet eigenfunctions, but the solution of these equations. Solution. So while constituting the general solution, I can take any combinations of them. So in this case, since psi x plus L equal to psi L, so I can write e to the power I k x plus L plus b to the power minus I k x plus L is equal to a to the power I kx plus b to the power minus I kx. And this cannot be satisfied unless so either either b equal to 0, and then we know that kl has to be 2n pi, or k has to be 2n pi by L. And what values of L? Let me write down from negative -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Or a has to be 0, and again KL will be 2n pi. And what is the wave function here? In this case, the wave function is psi to the power I kx. Again, I get the same thing, but the wave functions in this case is, let's call it kn. B e to the power minus I k n x. Now, if I consider, if I look at the first, so again, this is in both cases. So in one case, the wave function is I to the power plus I, in one case minus I. Now, if n goes from, so first of thing, n equal to 0 is valid or not? Yeah, at n equal to 0, my psi is constant. E to the power 0 is constant, so it's a valid solution. And it has energy equal to 0. There's no problem in that. And what is the energy? Energy is given by h bar square k square by 2 m, which is h bar square 4 h bar square n square pi square by 2ml, which is 4 times n square pi square h bar square by 2ml. So basically, first of all, n equal to 0 can be a solution. Second, if I consider n equal to 1, n equal to minus 1, then I am considering both plus ikx plus minus ikx. So I don't need to consider this thing again. So I can write down the eigenfunction psi of nx is equal to a to the power I kn of x e of n is equal to this thing, n square pi square h bar square divided by 2ml. But now n goes from 0 plus minus 1 plus minus 2 plus minus 3, and noticingly this ground state is degenerate, and this degeneracy of the ground state is almost everywhere. But these states are non-degenerate. Non-degenerate means only one state for a given energy, and all these states are doubly degenerate. All these states are doubly degenerate, and degenerate means that degenerate means more than one eigenstate. Why? For same eigenvalue. Why? Because n equal to positive or negative, E of plus minus n is same. Basically, n equal to positive or negative, but the two states will be different. One state will be a plus e to the power I k x, another will be a plus e to the power minus I k n x. So these two states are not same. And how do we know that they are different? So one has a momentum h bar k plus of h bar k, another k of n, this momentum of the states, and the momentum of this state is minus h bar k of n. And why we got this degeneracy? Because the momentum actually commutes. So momentum is this operator minus I ddx actually commutes with h, this h for periodic potential. So it's a very important thing to note, because see, momentum does not commute in this case. So commute does not only means, so again, see, in both cases, in this case for infinite square wave potential, you are solving these equations, but you are solving this equation only in this region. And your momentum operator P is always minus I h bar d dx. So it may seems that this is, if this is your Hamiltonian operator, then momentum is actually commuting with the Hamiltonian operator. Hamiltonian operator is nothing but momentum square by 2m. But no, Hamiltonian operator is not just momentum square by 2m. It's also this potential operator. And in this case, the potential is abruptly broken. So the potential is broken. So it's a x-dependent term here because H is actually x-dependent. And this Vx breaks the translational symmetry. Because you are imposing this reason where this Hamiltonian is valid. Otherwise, the Hamiltonian is not there. So actually you are imposing this reason. So this is actually does not commute with P, does not commute with H. So whatever wave function you are getting here, the sine function, that is not a momentum eigenfunction, and this sine function is not a momentum eigenfunction. Not a momentum eigenfunction. And also all the states are non-degenerate. And all the states are non-degenerate. All the states are non-degenerate. And that is typical in a one-dimensional problem where x is the entire real line from minus infinity to plus infinity. And this is a general behavior for any one-dimensional problem, general behavior for one-dimensional problem where x is minus infinity to plus infinity. Now in the second case, for the periodic boundary condition, these are momentum eigenstates also. The energy eigenstates are momentum eigenstates. Energy eigenstates are momentum eigenstates, which means that your momentum P and the Hamiltonian H, they actually commutes, and they commute because you have this periodic boundary condition to everything, and your X is actually periodic. So X actually on the circle, lies on the circle, and it does not breaks the translational symmetry, and your H does not break the translational symmetry. Which means you have the symmetry, so your momentum is conserved. Basically, conserved means your energy eigenfunctions are momentum eigenfunctions. That's what it means. And so this commutativity also means conservation, and it gives a symmetry. So the symmetry and commutator are all related. And why you are getting degeneracy? Because if you have observable O1, O2, which are different up to some OK, you have these observables which are different from each other, and all commutes with Hamiltonian, and they are also mutually commuting. So OI, OJ. So this is called you can create a complete set of commuting observable. And if you can create a complete set of commuting observable, then you can list the states uniquely by specifying unique quantum numbers. And these quantum numbers will correspond to energy E and observable O1, O2, values of observable O1, O2 to OK. So this will be the list of your complete quantum numbers. And in this case, for this 1D problem, for this 1D periodic boundary condition problem, when your momentum P equal to 0, your energy equal to 0, and that's the only state. ground state. And this concept applies to everywhere. If you take an example like hydrogen atom, which has many degeneracies, you can apply this concept basically. And then but when P is non-zero, you have two states, positive moving states and negative moving states for each energy which is non-zero, and that gives you doubly degenerate but unique identification. But unique identification. Okay, so that is the story. And the next thing I want to talk about regarding this periodic boundary condition, as well as for one-dimensional boundary condition, is what are your states? Now I have this infinite square well, uh, infinite square well, where I have this wave function psi of n is equal to a of n, it could depend on n, sine of n pi x by L, and n become is plus 1 plus 2 and so on, 1 2 3 and so on. And periodic boundary condition where your psi n is a of n. This a could be different. I am not normalizing the wave function here. You can normalize it, but yeah, that's just a normalization mentioned. E to the power I 2n pi x by L. This is your eigenfunctions, their eigenvalue n square pi square h bar square by 2ml. The eigenvalue is 4 times n square pi square h bar square by 2m. Okay. But here n goes from 0 plus minus 1 plus minus 2 and so on. Now I want to introduce the concept of density of states. So what are density of states? Again, this is a density. So I want to calculate number of states per energy per volume. So I have a material, one-dimensional material. So okay, let's consider now. It's easy to talk about density of states from going from 3D, 2D to 1D. So that we can do that, I must tell you another important trick or important way method to solve a three-dimensional Schrodinger equation, like dx square plus dy square plus dg square psi of x y z plus v of x y z psi of x y z is equal to E of psi x y z is separation of variable. And again, psi of x y z is separated into three independent variable y and psi of g. So if you use this separation of variable, then you can also solve the problem of quantum dot that was asked before, like a quantum dot. So quantum dot is you are confined in a three-dimensional box. Let's consider a box with volume, with length Lx, Ly, Lg, with the corner at one corner at 0, 0, 0, this is a box. And then if you do this separation of variable, you will find that total energy E will be energy in the x, y, and g direction. And in x, y, and g direction, you have the same formula, which is pi square by h bar square 2m, and you will have one quantum number by Lx plus the second quantum number by Ly plus the third quantum number by Lg. Any question? Okay. So now let's take Lx, Ly, Lg. If you take Lx, Ly, Lg, you are introducing a symmetry in the problem. And once you introduce a symmetry in the problem, you might expect degenerate cases. What kind of symmetry you are introducing, you have to figure it out properly mathematically if you want to quantify. And if you do that, then your energy will be n pi square h bar square divided by 2ml.
Sir,
Yeah.
this is ml square, I think.
L square, right? Okay.
Energy
Okay.
equal to
Yeah.
m
L square, L
pi
square, L square, L square.
Yes.
That's why I was. Yeah. That's why somewhere I got confused. It's L square. Thank you. Thank you. That's why I was being slow. Okay. Yeah. This is L square. Pi square is by L square. N pi by L. Okay. So why is mouse? Okay. L square, and then n1 square plus n2 square plus n3 square. And then there will be degeneracy because n1, n2, n3 can permute themselves itself. So at least a permutation degeneracy is there because there is this permutation symmetry of all the vertices and edges and things like that. So there is kind of a permutation symmetry, some kind of other symmetry like rotation symmetry and reflection symmetry or something. So rotation about some. This is a cube. It's a cube. So loss of symmetry is there, and since loss of symmetry is there, for each symmetry you will get this beautiful degeneracy. This is the degenerateness. One degeneracy 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1. Triple degenerate and things like that. Now let me talk about the density of states. Now density of states is I want to calculate what is the number of states per unit area per unit time. Now I will calculate that in the kx, ky, kg plane. Now kx will be n1 pi by lx, ky will be n2 pi by ly, and kg will be n3 pi by lg. So your E becomes h bar square k square by 2m. That is there. So you have a energy which is if you plot the constant energy surfaces. So your constant energy starting from 0, your constant energy surfaces moves like this. So these are all sphere. A constant energy surface. This is your kx, ky, kc. And what are the states? Since nx, n1, n2, n3 can only be integers, and I said positive integers, so the states can only be lie in at least in the one quadrant, and these are discretized. There will be discretization. There will be discretization in this axis. Then how can I calculate the density of states? So let's us calculate the density. Before calculating the density of states in energy, let us calculate the density of states in K space. So in the K space, if I look, one point has volume. The volume per K space point, volumes per K space point, kx, ky, kg, is given by this pi by lx times pi by ly times pi by lg, because that's the spacing in each direction, which is pi cube by v, volume of the material. Now this is the K space volume. Now in a radius of K, how many states are there in the cell between K to K plus delta K? This is K and K plus delta K. This is 1/8 of the sphere, this part. So I can easily calculate what is the volume of this in volume of this cell, volume of the cell in the K space, volume of cell in K space is equal to 1/8 of 4 pi K square and dk. This is between K and K plus dk. That is the thing. Now, volume of the cell in K space and volume per K space point, both I know. So number of points or states, basically, volume per state in K space. So number of state will be this volume 1/8 times 4 pi K square dk divided by pi cube by b, which I can also write 4 pi K square dk divided by 2 pi whole cube divided by b. I do not want to go. So I want to say you, and this is written as uh, density of state gk dk. This is the density of states in K space is equal to p by 2 pi cube 4 pi K square dk. Or if you want to calculate the density of states per K space per volume, then you will divide it by volume. So this will be the formula. Now, once you know the density of states in the K space, it is very easy to calculate the density of states in the energy space, which is called GeDE. What you will do, you will just replace the function E equal to h bar square K square by 2m in the formula GKdK. So that is, you want to calculate this. So what you start with GKdK, and GKdK must be equal to GED, because that gives you the probability, the density between this interval K and K plus D, K or E and E plus D, E. So this is the density, and you can equate only the density. You cannot, you can equate the cannot equate the density distribution between E and E plus D, which in terms of density, not density, the number of points, between E and E plus D, and the number of points between K and K plus dk, that you can equate once you know the formula equal to h bar square K. So you substitute the formula equal to h bar square K in the GK dk formula. So GK dk is 1 by 2 pi cube, keep it outside, times 4 pi K square. Now K square is 2m E by h bar square and dk. So K is square root 2m E by h bar. So dk is square root 2m by h bar, e to the power half, e to the power minus half. So you'll get square root of m by 2, another h bar. So okay, square root of 2m by 2 h bar, 1 by square root of t. So your G and D is also there. So your G will be this entire thing. And that's how you calculate density of states. So this is the density of states in one dimension. Now the question is, for periodic boundary condition, periodic boundary condition, will the density of states change or not? So for periodic boundary condition, the density of states will not change for GE or GK. Why? Because for periodic boundary condition, we have everything the same. The only difference is now Kx, Ky, Kg can be both positive and negative. So we will have a full sphere. We'll have the full sphere. Full sphere will be filled. But if you look at the points in the K space, now they are the spacing has doubled. this volume has becomes 8 times, because now, right now we have spacing 2 pi by Lx, 2 pi by Ly, and 2 pi by Lg. So if you go there, this changes to 2 pi cube divided by V, and this changes to 4 pi k square dk. And when you divide, you get the same result. So it doesn't change. Although the energy quantization, the value of the energy is different. And you should think about it, why this is so. Is there any kind of relation why this is happening or not? Because you are converting, so one in two, so you are, so basically you are using different boundary conditions, but why? What is the reason? That you should think. And now one important thing is, which is used in solid state physics, is it was shown that the bulk properties does not matter, and the boundary conditions properties will not depend on the specific of the specific, will not depend on the boundary conditions, depend on the surface properties. Example, what boundary conditions you use to derive this result. So one example is, okay, density of state will not depend, but this boundary condition, this energy changing, and you have to think about why, what is going on. And the second thing is, you can do all these calculations. So one important point, I didn't include spin yet, didn't include spin degeneracy, because for spin you will have two degeneracy. So you have to multiply the density of state, multiply g of E by 2, whatever you got. And now you can redo the calculations for any EK relation in any dimension, 2D, 1D, 0D. I mean, okay, check what will happen in 0D, what density of state we will get. So for 2D, the calculations will be, you will have a circle. So basically you are trying to calculate the area of the ring, and the area of the ring, this is the important part, the area of the ring is pi k 2 pi k dk, and this grading, I'm assuming periodic boundary condition because it doesn't matter, we can using this grading is 2 pi cube 2 pi square by area. So with these two, again, in ignoring spin degeneracy, you can calculate GK and then GED. Now GK will not change, so it's always important to calculate GK, but GED will depend on the dispersion relation EK, and you should do 1D and 0D, because that will clarify your idea for 1D and what will happen. It's only Kx, so you can have two states, either plus or minus, if you assume 2 pi by L spacing, or you will have only one states if you assume pi by L spacing. So the spacing has doubled, the number of states has also doubled, so they are basically the same. Okay. Any questions up to this? Any questions? Okay. Oh. Okay. So so another thing is the applications of this in the node in the so-called node theorem. So there are some properties of one-dimensional potential, some properties of one-dimensional potential. So some properties of solution psi of x of Schrodinger equation with v of x real in 1D. And when I say psi of x, I am always mentioning this time independent Schrodinger equation, not the time dependent Schrodinger equation. So basically, one of the properties that you can always choose. So first property is uh, Vx real in 1D. 1D means x is in the real number. No periodicity. Real number doesn't have periodicity. This is real axis. It doesn't have periodicity. So real number doesn't have periodicity. Okay. So x is real number from minus infinity to plus infinity. For periodic potential, you had that degeneracy. For real number, the first thing is no degeneracy. No degeneracy for any eigenvalues. So all the states are non-degenerate. Second, I'm not going to prove that. The second thing is you can always choose your psi x to be purely real. I mean real actually. Yeah. So that was the question. Remember, the total psi x of t cannot be you have eigenfunction. This is the formula. But you can choose your eigenfunctions to be real. Why choose? Because one can come up with another eigenfunction which is some e to the power I alpha, or let's say e to the power uh, I alpha, any alpha, psi n, and that is all. That is also another eigenfunction, but it is complex. So you can choose your eigenfunction to be real. And third thing is called the node theorem. Node theorem is what is node? The node of a wave function is when the wave function becomes zero. So if this is your psi x you are plotting, and the psi x somehow becoming zero here, so this is a node where psi at x is not equal to zero. At x equal to x naught is a node, and the node theorem says that if you order the energies like E naught less than E1 less than E2 less than, you can order them En, and this is the ground state, then psi of n x will have n nodes, which means ground state no node. First exercise said one node, and first of all you can check that this is true for the infinite square wave potential. Ground state no node, first exercise state one node, second exercise state will have two nodes, right? So this is the first exercise state nodes, this is the nodes for the second exercise states, and so on. And then the idea is I'll give you an explanation why this is true for any problem, because node theorem is also very you will find an application also in the radial wave function for atoms, radial wave function for hydrogen atom, there also you'll find the application of North theorem, but there the R belongs from 0 to infinity, which is the ray half the real line. But again, there will be this North theorem. So why North theorem is true, at least for the real line, and the argument is like this, the reasoning is like this. It's not a purely mathematically sound reasoning, but this goes like this. If you have your some potential, it's like a potential hill actually. Now, so choose the minimum of the potential, right? This is the minimum of the potential, V mean, and there V means this is kind of flat, and choose a very small length where this flatness is maintained, where you can actually choose epsilon to minus epsilon plus epsilon to minus epsilon, where the flatness is maintained, and you construct imaginarily a potential well. And what will be the wave functions for the potential well? The wave functions for the potential well for the ground state energy is this, for the exercise states is this, for the next exercise state is this. Okay, your wave functions for some E0, non E0 not equal to 0, E0, E1. Otherwise, the wave function is 0 outside. Outside the wave function is 0. Outside the wave function is 0. Now a property of the Schrodinger equation. Property of the Schrodinger equation is a second order differential equation in X. Second, again I am talking about time independent Schrodinger equation. Second order differential equation. Second order ordinary differential equation. Psi double prime of X plus E of X psi of X equal to E psi of X is that if psi at some point x naught is 0 as well as the psi prime of x naught is 0, which means your psi grows like this and then something. If psi does something like that, right, at x naught, the psi is 0, the derivative is 0. So here this is the inflection point. I have what I have plotted. It could not be, it could also be something like this, which is a minimum. So something like this. This is the inflection point. This is a minimum. But this cannot happen. Why this cannot happen? Because psi is a smooth function. Psi is basically psi is a smooth function. Smooth means in a sense has Taylor series expansion. Taylor series expansion about a point. Now, if you expand the Taylor expand psi around this point x naught. Now, if your psi of x prime is 0, psi of x is 0, then psi double prime is also 0 at that point, because psi double prime is just given by this E minus B psi of x. Psi triple prime will be 0, because if you take the double derivative here, if you take another derivative, it will become psi prime, a mixture of psi and psi prime and psi double prime, psi and psi prime initially. So psi triple prime will be 0, psi double prime triple prime 0, psi. So all the derivatives will be identically 0 for n equal to 0, 1, 2. 0 means the function itself, which will means the Taylor expansion, the psi x will automatically be 0 in the neighborhood around the point x naught. Now, once you get is 0 around the point x naught, move the point on the left and the right, and you can show that psi of x is identically 0 in the entire real line. So hence, these things cannot happen. Psi of x, the derivative, and this cannot happen. So it cannot happen. And if it cannot happen, then now imagine that you are moving this. This is a sliding window. Think of this as a sliding window there and sliding window on that side. And once you are moving the sliding window, you are opening more and more of the potential, whatever the potential look like there. So you are moving the sliding window and opening up more and more of the potential. And then you are asking whether in this new potential, now the process is psi of x for each value will evolve smoothly, which means now I started with this ground wave function. Now can the ground wave function have a node acquired, or can it have two nodes acquired? So again I am plotting e equal to 0 for any. So can there be another extra node or another two extra node? And this cannot happen, because if this happens, the psi prime is negative at this end, psi prime is positive at this end. So somewhere while sliding the window, somewhere at some point, psi prime was 0 and psi was also 0 at the boundary. So this sliding is not possible. Now this sliding is possible. So if this sliding is possible, then either this situation has happened where while moving the derivative was 0 somewhere, or some situation like this has happened. But again this situation cannot happen, because psi equal to 0 and psi prime equal to 0. So again it cannot acquire one extra node or two extra nodes. And this is not only true for the ground state wave function E0. This is true for all the wave functions. So the node numbers remains the same. Node number remains the same for E0, E1, E2. So that's a very beautiful theorem called node theorem, and you will find application of node theorem in many places also. Okay, so I'll stop here and ask for. So wait for questions. So please ask me questions if you have any question. Then I'll briefly describe about the scattering states, and then yeah, I'll.
जलेबी गर्ल अब लिखो शी का क्या होता है प्लूरल शी का प्लूरल
Hello. Hello. Okay. So I'll talk about the scattering states and.
Excuse me, sir. Am I audible to you?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
That, sir, if we have these node formation at some specific wave function corresponding to E0 or E1 or E2,
Yeah.
then what are the implications that are visible in terms of band gap or maybe the band structure formation?
Oh yeah, I am. So actually, there will be a tomorrow, I think, discussion of band gap. But I can actually tell you what happens for many states. So let me just tell you that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So the question is, how can we go to the band? Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible. Please, sir.
Okay.
You are audible.
So what happens if I increase the number of potential? So I talked about square wave potential, infinite square wave potential, but basically for finite square wave potential. It's easy to describe how the band formations happens. The finite square wave potential is you have this. So you have a symmetry, and again another property that I didn't mention is like property number 4, I think, is symmetry. If Vx has a symmetry, Vx is symmetric, even basically, Vx is even, then psi x, you can choose psi x either to be even or odd. You can choose psi x to be so either even or odd. So this is another symmetry. So basically, again, in this case, if I consider this potential not from 0 to L, but minus L by 2 to plus L by 2, then again, this sin x is symmetric. This one is not. The next one is uh, even, odd, even. So this is even, odd, even, and so on. Right. So this is a property of non-dimensional function. So let's say we have two states. So for simple square wave potential with some minus V naught energy, this is my 0. This is my energy axis. This is from plus L by 2 to minus L by 2. And we will have some finite number of states. I am not solving it. And let's say we have two states. One state is this, another one is this. Okay. So this state is the ground state. And so ground state will have even symmetry. And how the wave function will look like. So this is my square wave. So, and this is the ground state. So the wave function will look like this. Wave function will decay in this region, symmetric, and decay in this region. Now, how will we calculate the Schrodinger equation? We'll divide it in three regions, 1, 2, and 3, and calculate Schrodinger equation in three different regions. So, like h of 1, psi of 1 equal to E psi of 1. Similarly, h of 2, psi of 2 is equal to E psi of 2. And h of 3, psi of 3 is equal to E psi of 3. And we know H because we know potential at this three region, and we know the P square by 2m kinetic energy term. Now, boundary conditions or matching conditions. There are a few matching conditions. The first matching condition is the wave function must be continuous at the boundary. Psi x continuous at boundary, and also psi prime x continuous at the boundary. Now this problem can have two bound states, and these states are called bound states. Now what are bound states? Bound states are all the states that are normalizable. All the states that are normalizable. And to be normalizable, we will have another condition. And normalizable, to be normalizable, we must have these conditions that psi of x goes to 0 as x goes to plus minus infinity. Otherwise, we will not be able to normalize, because we will have, so not only psi of x goes to 0, but this psi square x goes to 0 sufficiently smoothly, so that this thing psi of x square is integrable. Square integrable, psi of x is square integrable, and things like that. So basically psi of x, I can say psi of x goes to 0 as x went to plus minus infinity, otherwise psi square will not go to 0. So these conditions should always be there. That's why we have this e to the power decaying state minus kappa x, and starting from minus at L by 2. So I have shifted it here, and e to the power minus I of kappa will be plus x plus L by 2, because x will be sufficiently negative, and I have shifted it to this point. X will be sufficiently negative, so kappa is a positive number, and so you can calculate these things. So these are normal bound states. Now we can have another state. Now we can calculate this Schrodinger equation, and here is your energy E, and energy is same for all the three equations. So this eigenvalue doesn't change. So you are calculating for a given energy. So let's say you are calculating for this energy also. There you will not get any bound states, because whatever states you will get here is scattering state, is coming from here and can get reflected here at this boundary. Something gets transmitted, get reflected, so there will be another wave function here, and something that's only transmit, gets transmitted, no reflected. So you will again solve the same equations, but in this case you have to be careful that there will be a reflection, there will be no state. So if there is a left moving states incident, there will be no, there is a right moving state incident from the left, there will be no left moving state, no left moving states here. So and these states are called scattering states. Now how will you calculate the scattering probabilities and transmissions and everything? You use the same equations, same boundary conditions, and then you calculate transmission and reflection probabilities, transmission and reflection probabilities and everything. That is a scattering problem. Now in the bound state problem, I have this state, the first bound state, and the second state, the second bound state will be something, okay, let me draw it here. This is the ground state, has no node, and the first excited state will be, again I am drawing here separately. First excited state will be is decaying, should have a node, and the node will be in between, and then again decay, because you have to so this is antisymmetric. First of all, this will be antisymmetric. Second of all, there will be one node, and there is a different sign on this side and that side. So this is this is odd. This is an odd function, and number of nodes is equal to 1, and this is ground state E1 is greater than E0 and less than E2, and this is the ground state E0, and this is even about X. So that is already there. Now, if I move, if I bring two square well potential, what will happen? Now, two square closer to each other. So, what will happen if they are far, far apart? Million light years apart. What will happen? So the Schrodinger equation, and it's a problem with Schrodinger equation. So it has instantaneous nature. So you are solving the equation wave function instantaneous for everywhere. So it will have an effect which is non-zero theoretically on the energy eigenstate. So it had two energy eigenstate, and these two energy eigenstate will be different somehow from the original one when there was nothing in the universe apart from this quantum, those quantum waves. Now, if you bring them closer and closer, bring closer, the what will happen is called the wave function overlap. The wave function will start overlapping, and you can calculate the situation in many ways. One way is called linear combination of atomic orbitals. This is linear combination of atomic orbital. What are the atoms here and what are the orbitals here? So these are the atoms. This is the first atom. This is the second atom. What are the orbitals? When we draw the ground state first, this is the first ground state, this is the orbital, the first orbital, this is the first ground state. And in the linear combination of atomic orbital, you get a symmetric combination and an antisymmetric combination. Psi left plus psi right, and an antisymmetric combination. Psi left minus psi right. Now to keep our discussion about symmetric, let's choose origin x equal to 0 here and bring both of them closer so that the symmetry of the problem v of x equal to v of minus x is satisfied, where v consists of both this potential. So v, this is not only, so this v of x is actually consists of both the square well. So so it's like this. This is one square well. This is another square well. And then you have this wave function. Now you will get a symmetric and the antisymmetric component. Which one is even? This is of course even around this x equal to 0. This is odd around x equal to 0. The even component even closer. The wave function has a significant overlap now. This is the wave function overlap region. And since wave function has overlap, this state, which was this E0 state before, now gets splitted. Now I have two E0 states for each quantum well, and they get splitted. Ones become higher, one becomes lower. Now this is of course the symmetric one, and this will have no node. So this wave function is the symmetric combination, will have no node. Will have no node because there is no chance of forming node here. You have just added here, nothing was 0 before, so no node, and will become the ground state. So this E0 has splitted, E0 plus delta E, E0 minus delta E, and the ground state E0 minus delta E, the wave function is this. The first excited state, the wave function will be antisymmetric component, it will be 0 here. Now you got already the first node. Now since you have got already the first node, what is your second and third states? Okay, let's go to the second and third excited states. Now your square well potential has this. Now I'll draw the wave function for the first excited state, not the ground state. So this was before, this is not now, and it will get splitted also. The first excited state has two energy and will get splitted. So some E1 minus delta E1, E1 plus delta E1, and what was the wave function? Wave function had already one node. So again, wave function can have symmetric and antisymmetric combination. Now let's see what is the antisymmetric combination. The antisymmetric combination is psi left, okay, I'm drawing something. Okay, let me draw psi left. So this is psi left, exaggerated, and antisymmetric combination. So I am writing the antisymmetric one. So minus the psi right. So I'll minus the psi right. So okay, you are getting the idea. So it was a node here before. I took the minus of it, and I took the plus of it. It was a node there before. Okay, it was a node there before, this node, and this node, and in between it is actually symmetric because the wave functions are same for the both one. So it will have only two nodes because I have used the antisymmetric wave function and already there was one node. And in the symmetric function, it will cross here, and so in the symmetric version, you will have this kind of thing, where this goes to 0 slowly and slowly. So you had this node and this node in the wave function, and because you take the symmetric combination, you just add them. So you get three nodes, and this corresponds to E naught minus delta E1 minus delta E1, and that corresponds to E1 plus delta E1. So that's how your wave function changes. And if you look at these wave functions, this looks like periodic wave function, right? Which actually evolves to the block states kind of thing when you have many atoms. So when you have many atoms, this linear combination of atomic orbital will give rise to the method which is known as the tight binding method. And for many atoms, this splitting, so this is for two atoms, for let's say 5 atoms, the splitting width does not get bigger, but you will have 5 states, but this splitting width does not go beyond the region because it cannot cross the next energy state. You understand that? So you cannot cross this. So if you have started with this 2 square well potential, if this is supposed to be your ground state and this is supposed to be your first excited state for the single potential, now the splitting cannot be, for the splitting of the two states cannot go beyond the first excited state. No, the splitting cannot be so high. Even if your square well potential was something like this, the splitting cannot go beyond the second excited state. So splitting is only limited. How many states you apply doesn't matter because there is another states also. The splitting is only limited. So for the second excited state also, the splitting is limited. Even for the highest states, the splitting is limited because it cannot go outside into the scattering state. So this splitting is limited. Doesn't matter how many atoms you add. This splitting is only limited by the next energy level or the vacuum level, if you call it the vacuum level or the 0. So the splitting is limited. So if you add more and more atom, and the splitting is only limited and only can be finite, so the first excited states will have many states. Even I mean 10 to the power 22 times many states than I have drawn. I mean 10 to the power 2 times states, and then your first excited state becomes a band, and also your ground state becomes a band. So you call it a band because there are many states. N 10 to the power 23 states. So it becomes band, and there is a band gap. The origin of the band gap is the gap in the energy states. Already there was a gap in the energy state. The energy states were discrete to start with. That is the origin of the band gap. And why you get continuous band? Because of overlap. Because your wave function are now getting overlap, now electrons can hop from one side to another very easily. From this side to this side to this, back and forth, it can hop. So this tight binding model gives you the idea that the band gap, origin of the this is the band, allowed band. So the origin of allowed band is hopping, is wave function overlap, and band gap, the origin of band gap is the discreteness of discrete atomic levels, and no level crossing. In one dimensional, there will be no level crossing. In 2D and 3D, there could be level crossing. So in 2D and 3D, there will be level crossing, means if you start with some distance A, very, very far away, you have different levels, and then your levels are evolving, but there could be a crossing. So in 2D and 3D, this level crossing is possible. Your levels are evolving. This is 1s, 2s, 2p, and you have probably seen this diagram for silicon or carbon. This is your energy level and how the bands are formed, and this is known as the level crossing. And in one dimension, that is not possible, because whenever you are going to cross a level in one dimension, no level crossing can happen. Since whenever you cross a level, you are creating a degeneracy, because no degeneracy. And the question that these wave functions look more like a block state, and you can write down all mathematical expression. I am trying to show you pictorially. Mathematically, you can formulate it starting from linear combination of atomic orbitals, hopping energy, tight binding method, writing the matrix, symmetry of the matrix will look like the matrix as a wave function of e to the power ikx form, and things like that. You can all reduce that. Okay, thank you. Okay, any question?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. The question is resolved. Thank you, sir.
Okay, yeah. No, okay. The question is yeah. So I was about to tell you about the scattering state and the bound state. So the last thing is I want to tell you, while calculating the scattering state or the bound state, we have taken this boundary condition where I didn't calculate it, but if you try to calculate it, they've taken the boundary condition psi x is continuous and psi prime x is continuous, and that is only possible because this we can use this boundary condition if Vx has no infinite discontinuity. Vx can have finite discontinuities, and continuity, or continuities at finitely many points. Continuities at finitely many points. So can have finite continuities at finitely many points, but cannot have infinite. So if Vx has infinite discontinuities, that is known as the delta function potential, and delta function potential is also very important. Now again, delta function potential, I will draw two things. This is the vacuum level x equal to 0. I am drawing the energy level. This is my E equal to 0. This is my E equal to 0. This is my x-axis, and there is one potential which is a negative delta function. This potential V of x is some minus, let's call it V naught delta of x. V naught is a positive number. And another one x, this is my E equal to 0, and this is Vx is equal to plus V naught delta x. Now how will you solve it? Again, since this is a delta function, you will resolve it in two different regions, 1 and 2, and you will have two wave functions, and hi psi I equal to, for particular energy you are solving, E of psi I, H2 psi H1 psi 1, H2 psi 2 is E of psi 2, and matching condition. What will be the matching condition? The matching condition, first matching condition is psi prime will still be continuous, because if psi prime was not continuous, because if psi prime uh, sorry, psi will be continuous. If psi is not continuous, then psi prime will have delta discontinuity, which means if not, then implies psi prime delta, which means psi double prime will have derivative of delta ddx discontinuity, but v of x has only delta discontinuity. It will not match basically, because your wave Schrodinger equation is something like this for the entire wave function psi of x plus vx psi of x equal to E of psi of x. So if psi of x has this, psi of x, this is double prime, psi of x is discontinuous, then this will have a ddx of delta x, and vx has only delta x, so it cannot match. So psi prime will be cannot be discontinuous. So psi cannot be discontinuous. So psi will be continuous. Psi of x will be continuous. This is the one condition. Psi of x will be continuous. This is one of the conditions. And the second condition is psi prime of x discontinuous. So this is psi of x will be continuous. And psi prime of x will be discontinuous, and what will be the discontinuity? You can get it from the Schrodinger equations. So basically, in this equation, if you integrate this equation from minus epsilon to plus epsilon dx, so you will get minus h bar square by 2m psi prime at epsilon minus psi prime at minus epsilon equal to plus this thing integral delta x integrating from minus infinity to plus infinity, and whatever your vx is, minus or plus minus v naught, plus minus of v naught delta x psi of x dx is equal to integrating minus into plus infinity e of psi of x dx. But this thing is 0 because psi is continuous. These things will be given by psi of naught plus minus this. So you know that your difference in the psi prime minus a square by 2m satisfies this equation. So psi prime x will be discontinuous. From these two equations, you can calculate the energy eigenfunctions. And now the thing is, what you should ask yourself is there a state with E greater than 0 possible? This will be the scattering state, right? Is there a state with E less than 0 possible? Similarly, is there a state with E less than 0 possible? Is there a state with E greater than 0 possible? I mean, will there be any bound state for this? How many bound state? How many bound state? Bound state. Or this or this? Or scattering states? Or what is the transmission or reflection? For here or here? transmission and reflection are for scattering states only. So you should try doing all this thought process, like what are the bound states, what are the scattering states, and so on. And let me tell you finally what is the how do you calculate the transmission and reflectance, because that has some implication. So transmission and reflection. Because it is needed to calculate
ये वाला ऐसा नहीं, आजकल तो आता है
in ballistic transport. And before that, one of the another important thing of quantum mechanics will be tunneling. So that is another important thing is tunneling. Tunneling is another important property of quantum mechanics. And the tunneling is if you just take a potential like a step potential. Now, if you have a scattering states, states will get reflected here. But if you calculate the wave function, you will find a finite non-zero psi here that decays, but non-zero psi, which tells you probability of finding the particle here is not equal to 0. And how do you recover the classical mechanics? Because this is a classical forbidden region, classically forbidden, not allowed, forbidden. These are still these are scattering states. There are no bound states. For E less than 0, if I call it equal energy equal to 0, for E less than 0 and greater than this minus V0, if I call this minus V0, this is a step potential. So this is step potential, or I can call this change the state. So I can call this as equal to 0, this as V0, or E less than V0 basically. So you will have probability of finding the particle will be non-zero, but probability current will be 0. So if you calculate the probability current, you will find that the probability current is 0. So reflectance will be 1, fully reflected. But the probability of finding the particle will be non-zero, and this is classically forbidden. And how do you reconcile with this classical fact? And there you use the energy time uncertainty relationship to recover the classical behavior, which means if you want to locate the particle here, there is a maximum energy, so there is a energy V naught, so there is a uncertainty in how what is the time scale in which you can do the measurement, and that will give rise to a momentum value which will be more than the energy uncertainty. So the uncertainty will be violated, and you should try this. And tunneling, then the tunneling concept comes from this one only. This is the tunneling concept is nothing but if you have only a finitely this barrier, then again you do not have any bound states. These are all scattering states, but again your states can, you have a superposition of this, so there will be a superposition, and then you can, so if you're okay, so if you are coming from left and if you solve the equations, then you will see that you have a wave function, we'll have a wave function, and wave function decays, and then a smaller amplitude wave function, and then you can define the transmission probability by so if this is your one reflection and transmission, so transmission probability is if this is your wave function as a1 e to the power ikx, and this will be a2 e to the power minus ikx, and this is a3 e to the power ikx, and then you can so this is, let's say k1 k2 transmission probability will be k2 k3, this is the third region, 1 2 and 3, k3 mod of a3 square divided by k1 mod of a1 square. That will be your formula for transmission. So that is another thing that is very important. What is the transmission formula? And that transmission formula comes from the ratio of the current, because you will have a current will be given by h bar k times the amplitude square. If you calculate the current for these states, and the current j of x, that will be given by h bar k times the amplitude square. If you use a function psi which goes like it before ikx. These states are called scattering states, and that's how you calculate the transmission probability. However, these are all wave picture, and the particle viewpoint is through the concept of wave packets and group velocity. So you consider a wave packet like this, which has consists of, this is a wave function in real space, which consists of many components in Fourier space, because you can always calculate the Fourier decomposition of the wave function into ikx psi of x dx. So in the Fourier space, it consists of many components in from the k bands. So it forms a wave packet, and how this one moves, you can calculate how this wave function moves, or another word, psi of x is 1 by 2 pi e to the power minus ikx phi of k dk. And then you, if you know how each of these wave functions, just define a little bit differently. Okay, so if you know how they evolve, this is a linear superposition, then you will know how psi of x at t will evolve at t equal to 0. If you have a wave packet, then probably wave packet is moving in this direction on the right. So how you know 1 by symmetry. Psi of xt will be e to the power I kx minus et by h bar pi of k dk. And now, if E is not linear, E is h bar square k square by 2m, non-linear, then you will get dispersion. So the dispersion term comes from the light. The light is dispersive in a medium. Otherwise, for light, energy is P times C. So energy is linear to momentum, so non-dispersive. And this is, that's why EK relation is called the dispersion relation. And from there, if you do it, you will get the concept of group velocity. Group velocity Vg, which is given by 1 by h bar d by dk. In 3D, it will be a gradient. So this is bar 1 by h bar gradient of k, E of k. That is the concept of group velocity.